Hello, my name is Adrienne Lee of Adrienne Lee Joywork, and this is your Moonday Message for the collective beginning the week of May 4th, 2020. And we had some very interesting cards choose to join us today that really support the monthly message that I just posted over the weekend to my Patreon page. If you're not part of that Joywork collective, you can check it out once you're finished here and see what the goodness is about. But one of the main focuses of the message there for the month was that we are being offered choice. We are being asked to choose in the midst of all that is happening, the back and forth, the really valid options that we are being given. We're being asked to choose. What direction do we wish to go? Where do we want to start putting our focus and our attention? Knowing that what we are doing right now is creating our narrative and how we are going to think and feel and speak about this historical event that we are all sharing together. And the cards that are supporting us in that message this week, first we have the Two of Wands. The wands being the element of air, the space where our intuition and our intellect combine. And the two, also a very big number for this month and this week. 2 being the number of choice. Do we go left or right? Do we go up or down? Do we think positively or negatively? It is the number of duality. And we are being asked to expand our capacity to hold the nuance between those, to absorb and allow all shades of gray, and define what our own personal sacred point of view is in the midst of all that's going on. The Two of Wands asks us to look at ourselves, at how we have been behaving, at whatever habits have landed and instilled themselves in our days over the last 6, 8, 12 weeks or longer, depending on where you might be living. To take the time to really look and recognize that we have so much choice, even if a lot of our outward freedoms are no longer available to us in the same way. We still get to choose how to nourish ourselves. We still get to choose what goes on in here and what goes on in here without judging them, with giving so much space and time to whatever is coming up, but making a commitment to the practice of coming back in to what we have decided is important and valuable in our lives at this time. And to support this, I was also drawn to the Visionary Oracle Sacred Geometry deck. And what came forward is the Andean Shaman. And I just love this picture. First of all, I love when cards feature people of color. I think that we need more opportunities and spaces for people of color and indigenous people to be placed in the center. And I love how he is calling us forward and giving us the empowerment to be response able during these times. We've hit a stretch now where the initial shock of this situation is wearing off, and we are developing patterns and habits and ways of operating. That's how human beings work. A novelty hits, it either excites us or places us in fear. We keep moving through it, recognize that we're surviving, step out of survival mode in some ways, and start to develop some sort of foundation with what is in the now. I know there are a lot of us who aren't in that privileged of a place and are struggling with bills and mounting stresses as things continue onward in the ways that they have been continuing. And I am not making light or softening that reality in any way. That's definitely a truth for many people. And yet, the Andean shaman offers to us that what we allow ourselves to take in from a higher source, from a wider perspective, from our allies, from our ancestors, can come in through the crown chakra and exit out through the heart space and begin to affect our people, affect our point of view, affect our home space, affect our communities, our neighborhoods, our neighbors. But it starts here first. It starts with allowing that wider space, allowing the wider view that is outside of just our personal narrative to come in from the stars, from the heavens, from our people who have passed on, that everything will be okay. It may not be what we prefer, it may not be painless, but everything will be okay. This too is part of nature. We are in a contraction, a collective contraction. And it's very uncomfortable, particularly for those of us in Western society. We live in a society that is built on growth and go and expansion. We have very little resilience for the inevitable contraction that happens. When the stock market begins to ebb instead of flow, there is a major freak out instead of a general acceptance that we cannot always continue to be growing and expanding. Things must breathe. Everything breathes. Even if it's a thing like the stock market, it will expand and then it hits its edges, a little beyond its edges. It must contract, regroup, find firm foundation, expand again. And we are in this collectively, this huge contraction, at least for a lot of us. And yet there are many businesses that are in huge expansion that weren't previously. You know, everything ebbs and flows. And when we can begin to extract ourselves from it, our personal story, from taking it personally, we can begin to choose a different path and different way of responding and being available to what is. That's what the cards are suggesting. And the stone that came forward for us this week, good old trusty amethyst. Amethyst connects us directly to our chakra of the crown, connects us directly to those lineages that we cannot see, to knowledge that is much older than our current culture. And its sweet purple light really allows us to soften and recognize that this is just a drop in the ocean. And our stories are incredibly important, and it is incredibly important that we give ourselves time and space to grieve, to feel our feelings, to have the human experience. And the more we invest in dropping into that the moment it occurs and feeling the feelings all the way through, the more quickly we will move through them and allow ourselves the space to step into this amethyst light of being with what is and taking in a wider point of view. That's your Moonday message for this week. I hope it serves. I hope you have everything that you need. And I will check in with you next Monday.